I'll first introduce myself. I think I likely know many of you, and this is not my first time joining eCAUG. It is wonderful to be here virtually. I'm coming to you live this morning from the Boston area, so about as far away as we can be and still be in the same country. But it's always a pleasure to speak with you. I'm the Senior Director of Solution Consulting for the library software business within Clarivate. Members of my team will also be presenting today about some other aspects of the platform with updates and some new information and news about the product. So I hope that you enjoy everything that we have to offer. And if you have questions, please feel free to get in touch with us. I want to start by again welcoming you as a presence, a voice in our global user community. We have a presence in 94 countries around the world and more than 6,500 individual institutions. So, libraries, universities, colleges, government organizations, public libraries, various other groups that would have our products. It's more than 6,500 of you. So we're very happy that you're here. And of those, I want to call out that more than 2,700 are Alma institutions. And I know we have a lot of Alma libraries in the virtual room today. So we're really happy to be here with you. This time of year, our team visits a lot of the regional user groups in North America. And of course, California is one of the largest. And if I can say it, one of the most important by virtue of being one of the largest. So this is your place in the overall world of the user community. Our community also continues to grow. These are some logos. I love a good logo slide from, I was going to say around the world. It is really kind of heavily North America in this group. So some of the new friends who have joined us in the western part of the country, Sam Houston State, the University of Alberta, very large research university in Western Canada, and several others around the world. You can see a number of different institutions from Latin America have joined us in the last year or so. I just heard yesterday you might see the NASA logo up at the top. I heard that NASA is now live with Alma, so it's my hope that Alma will be in space at some point. I've decided that that's happening. So we're very happy to have you again as part of this group. We also are very aware at Clarivate these days that it is difficult to it's hard times for libraries on a number of different fronts. There are threats to funding. There are threats to the materials that we have in our collections through book banning efforts and oversight by groups with kind of questionable intentions. The role of government funding at the federal level is really in question for many of us these days. We keep a very close eye on all of that activity, and we're involved in advocating for libraries and for library funding, where it's appropriate for us to do so as a public company. We are the first sponsor of ALA's new public supporter program. If any of you were at ALA in June in Philadelphia, we announced it there. We're really proud to be a part of that. We also sent a team to the Capitol to lobby for library funding back in the spring. So some of you may know Tom Jacobson on the right and Michelle Hayes, who is a member of our sales team in Michigan. And a library director from Michigan is the third person pictured in this photo. So we're happy to partner with our customers and with the community to advocate for libraries in any way that we can. We recognize that it's really important right now. Turning to the products, just to situate ourselves within the ecosystem of the Ex Libris platform. Many of you are familiar with the product names that kind of make up the hemisphere here. They sit on a platform of content, of AI capabilities. The community is part of this. We take care of things like security and privacy, as well as APIs and integration, and allow you to do a great deal to achieve the three goals that run across the top. research excellence, library impact, and student outcomes. And everything that we do is oriented towards those goals. So that's the context in which I will be speaking today, is these different members of the family. I really do think of these products as kind of having distinct personalities and working together in ways that we can identify and understand and appreciate. So we will think about them with the goals in mind. Again, those things that run across the top: research excellence, library impact, and student outcomes. So let's start with Alma. For many of you, this is the largest component of the platform. It is the thing that has the biggest presence in your day-to-day and is the interface for your work with the library. We have been, in the last year or so, I think it actually is longer than a year at this point, working on a major user experience enhancement project. So we had a lot of collaboration from the Alma user community to get to a new version of the Alma UI with some streamlined workflows and more glanceability and easier ways to see your data and act on your data. We're also working to integrate AI workflows and capabilities where it's appropriate, where it might be helpful to have an AI agent that can work through a workflow that you define and help you to make decisions using data about your own collections. We're thinking about efficiency in that way as well. And automation has been a theme with Alma, from the get-go. And automation can mean different things for different libraries depending on the type of work that you do. But, we think of this in terms of, it could be something very simple like record loading, but it could also be cases where maybe we can use generative AI in new ways to automate things that weren't possible to automate in the past. I mentioned the new UX. Let's just take a quick look at where that stands. The new title search has been rolled out effective in August of this year. I'm sure that you are all using the new Manage Patron Services screen. And I want to say, I think that this is an area where we can see the impact of the particular approach that we took to this UX refresh. I've been working with Alma for a long time, not since the very beginning, but not long after that. And that Manage Patron Services screen was one of the screens in the system, and there weren't that many, that was pretty much exactly the same from the beginning. It had not changed a whole lot. I am on record as being a huge fan of that screen. As a former circulation supervisor, I love all the information you can access in one place, and I've always found it very easy to use. But as thinking has changed about the user experience, we need to bring it in line with what we're doing in the rest of the system. And I really like what has happened there. We've kind of made different use of the real estate available to us on the screen. All the information is still where you can get at it, but you can interact with it in a different way, and it looks a little bit more modern. So that's something that I'm a fan of. Coming up in 2026, some other UX projects using this iterative approach rather than trying to shift everything at once. And, one day you log into Alma and it all looks different. We're now taking the approach of doing things one at a time, and emphasizing the parts of the system that get the heaviest use. So coming up in 2026, a new search for physical items. I know that many people use this search day in and day out to find things, to do some detective work about the status of items in your collection. That is coming in 2026. And then one of the big ones, the Community Zone Updates task list. This also has not changed a great deal in many years, and it's time for us to re-examine how this is being used and introduce some new features to this particular part of the system so that you can navigate it more easily and probably get at more information. So keep an eye out for both of those coming in 2026. I want to say a few words about AI, and I want to start by talking about how we as Clarivate think about AI in an academic setting. We have a team that sits at the level of the entire academic and government segment, which is us in the library software team, the folks who run Web of Science, the ProQuest content people, many of these products that you're familiar with through the years that come from us. We all sit under academic and government, And at the level of all of those teams, we have a dedicated AI team. They do research into best practices. They come up with a proof of concept for, for new technology that may be out there. And they think about how all of these things can be woven together. And they also do a lot of thinking and very serious work to make sure that we are building tools that actually do something and make an impact for you. We think that it's important to keep pace with where AI is in the world of technology, but we also think it's important to not use it wastefully, to not be frivolous with it, to not waste people's time and money on something that may be silly. Nobody wants a useless product. We want to think about ways in which these new capabilities of generative AI can allow you to do things that you weren't able to do before and can maybe make your work easier or more efficient. So some of this has to do with looking at the really challenging workflows in library land. Metadata is complicated, and I would not want to take anything away from the work of expert catalogers, but some of the areas where we struggle with metadata, like ebook metadata, for example, can be improved through a level of automation with the capabilities of generative AI. We're doing some very serious thinking right now about acquisitions work and the complexity of data and the number of places where that data can be, even in Alma, where it's all living under one roof. Sometimes it's complicated to find things. Workflows for selection and also deselection. You can think of some of the most challenging things that we do that might be the most time consuming, and if there is a way to leverage new tools to make those easier. We also want to turn our attention to automating, simplifying, and analyzing your data and think about how AI can be brought to bear with that. Maybe there are new ways of providing data-driven recommendations. We've been doing this through machine learning in Alma for many years. Maybe we can improve that process. Bulk processes are an interesting area where we can see, are there AI capabilities that allow those to be even more efficient than they already are? And then the benefits for you would be, of course, increased efficiency on a day-to-day basis, less manual work. And that means that you have more time to devote to the things that need your specific attention and that really matter, allowing you to make the best use of your budget, especially at a time of concerns about budget levels, is a really critical part of this. We're doing a lot of thinking right now about AI agents. If you follow where generative AI is, you have probably heard about this. We are thinking about process orchestration using AI. And this, I think, is the evolution of work that has gone on that we've thought about with APIs since the very early days. But now we are thinking about the use of AI agents to help with these complicated processes. This is getting started with an acquisitions agent. So over here in this corner of the screen, this would be a way to talk with Alma about things like budgets and funds, purchasing decisions, understanding where the money might be and what it can be used for. This is an area, again, that's quite complicated for many libraries. And I think that an acquisitions agent might also put certain workflows within reach for smaller institutions that maybe don't have a dedicated acquisition staff. That's an interesting possibility to consider. Throughout the next year or so, you'll start to see more of this coming. The selection agent is something that will happen under the auspices of the Rialto team. We'll hear a little bit more about Rialto later on in the day. Amy Copeland from the product team is joining us to share some information about Rialto, and she knows quite a bit about what's happening in that area. So again, this is one where I want you to stay tuned. There's a lot of work coming with AI agents in the next year or so. This is a quick peek at what that AI acquisitions agent might be able to do for funds and ledgers. You could converse with the agent and ask it questions about the status of your budget and maybe even in comparison to last year. Maybe it's getting to be the end of the fiscal year and I want to understand, how much do I have left to spend? How does that compare to where I was last year at this time? And that can help me to make decisions about what to prioritize. Some of you may have heard about library open workflows. This is our new automation platform. It is a low code or no code tool. It's actually an implementation of a platform called N8N. That's the letter N, the number 8, and then the letter N. I know that there are a few institutions in California that were development partners with us on this tool or early adopters and are getting off the ground with some really exciting new automations for this. We have in the tool the ability to work with Alma APIs, Primo APIs, as well as APIs and integration points for third-party tools, including generative AI tools, but also really popular things like if your campus uses the Microsoft suite for productivity and you wanted to be able to have Alma speak with Microsoft to send emails about certain things. This would allow you to do that. It's simplifying some of these automations at a larger scale that have been hard to do without really complex dedicated developer support. This allows you as a librarian to sit down and understand how to do this, to connect things, to automate processes, and to integrate them. Some of the examples that our staff came up with. So these are examples that came from the Alma product team. We went to them and said, what is something that you've heard from a library that they might need that we could use, that we could create via APIs and webhooks? And these are the workflows that they came up with and that we were able to build using library open workflows pretty easily. I really like this AI agent that goes from the order. It takes an order from a vendor and it retrieves metadata and pricing and generates a purchase order on the spot. That simplifies something that can be quite complicated and involves a lot of data transfer. Expiring account notifications, fantastic to have at the end of the semester, at the end of the academic year, when people might be graduating and they still have your books and you need to find them. The consortia communication portal, this was one I think that many of you know Maud from the product team, who is our consortia expert. She came up with this as a way to help central offices communicate with members when there are support tickets and other types of requests involved. And then finally, one that enriches metadata with data from Wikidata. So these are some of the ideas that we came up with. I'm sure that all of you, if you sat down, could come up with additional ideas, and they can be created in this interface that is drag and drop and should involve a level of coding and automation, but not one that requires you to be a developer. Speaking of consortia, I know we have a lot of consortial members here. You're probably aware, but I'll just say it again, the new central configuration dashboard for consortia, just a PSA that it has been out there for more than a year now, and we are really happy with the work that was done. And this is also something, we spoke about the user community at the beginning of the session today, and I want to emphasize that the input from users was really essential to building this and building it the right way. So I want to thank all of you for giving us information that allowed us to build this tool. More consortial analytics dashboards are being rolled out, again with heavy input from the user community. The collection development focus group also had a role in this. Some of these dashboards have been rolled out already. Some of them are coming in the future. And a key improvement here will be the ability to view data across the entire network as a member. So if I am I'm looking at Jill on the screen. If I'm at San Jose State, Jill will be able to see her data as it relates to the rest of the network, for example. You'll be able to do comparative analysis as a member of a network. Moving on to Rapido and Rapid ILL. Of course, the community in California is such an important part of the work that we do with Rapido and Rapid ILL. The 2024 numbers, the year in review, at the end of last year, we had fulfilled almost 3.7 million requests in the Ex Libris resource sharing network. That includes Rapido libraries, Rapid ILL libraries, Alma libraries. It's a diverse group of institutions. One of my favorite things about this network is how quickly we are able to fill things, and also how how high the fill rates are, and that is driven by the accuracy of the holdings data. 95% of requests in this network are filled by the first lender because we have a good understanding of who holds what and also the availability of those materials for lending and for requesting. You're not, casting things out into the darkness when you're sending a request. It's being done with an awareness of who has it and can actually lend it to you. There's built-in load balancing, and we find that there's a lot of efficiency here to get things to patrons faster. Some of you may be taking advantage of the new ebook resource sharing capabilities in Rapido. This was introduced in January of this year. You can request a whole ebook, not just a scanned chapter, but the entire book. These are being sent as DRM-free PDFs at the moment. So there's a specific pod for this that you need to join. And this is if you have these books to lend. The concept of reciprocity is, of course, important here. So you can borrow and lend within this pod, and it's DRM-free ebooks. We are working on future concepts to see if there are other ways that we can do the delivery. Like I said, right now it's PDFs, but there might be other possibilities. The technological side of this is not trivial, so we're thinking quite a bit about how we can power this in the future. But you can see here on the right-hand side of the screen that the patron would see a third tile in Rapido. In addition to the physical copy tile and the chapter tile that we're familiar with, they would see the ebook tile. And typically, the delivery expectation here is 48 hours. Those are typically being delivered faster. So this is, again, an area where I think there's been a lot of interest in whole ebook lending. It's certainly been a hot topic at the different ILL conferences I've attended in the last few years. And we are working on ways to meet that need with this new capability. The Open ILL network is something that we think is really important. This was capability that was introduced last year, and we are continuing to enhance this and add to the infrastructure that enables libraries to connect with one another, whether it's within our network or beyond the network. We are leaning really heavily on standards as part of this approach. We believe that standards will power openness in the future. And we have done this in a couple of interesting concrete ways. Some of you may have heard about the implementation of Reshare, the open source resource sharing system at the National Library of Australia. Their system is called Trove. That's what they call it locally. It's, I believe, upwards of 400 libraries around Australia. It is a very large group. That team has been making the rounds presenting at conferences, so you will probably have the opportunity to hear from them if you haven't already. And we were able to integrate the Alma libraries into this with ISO 18626 earlier this year so that they're able to take part in borrowing and lending through Reshare. We are also working on new capabilities for an API access to our partner directory. So you're probably familiar with the resource sharing directory that we've had for a number of years, where libraries can, share their information publicly about their resource sharing status. We will provide access to this via API. And we've been working with the team at East. This would be the East Coast equivalent of West. That's the shared storage facility. And there are a number of Alma libraries that are part of that community, some Rapido libraries as well. And again, they have a shared print collection and they think about collection development. They are likely to be the first implementation of this. And they're also working on a hybrid pod in Rapido. So this is a really important component of the Open ILL network. Again, one that many of you, I think, are probably aware of and using today. But it allows you to have Rapido libraries and Alma libraries together in a resource sharing pod to share your collections and to share information, to do peer-to-peer resource sharing. This is really powerful in terms of bringing communities together, bringing resources from one library to the next. A fun enhancement specific to Rapid ILL for those of you who may support a lot of requests for electronic resources or really for articles. What we've done is we have introduced a prioritization for electronic lenders for a citation. So previously, if I put in a citation for a journal article, the system wasn't necessarily making a distinction between somebody who had the print version on the shelf and somebody who had the electronic version. As you can imagine, electronic versions are typically delivered a lot faster. Nobody has to go out to the stacks and get the bound volumes and come back and scan it. So with input from the community, we have built a new prioritization structure that allows us to route those requests first to a lender that has it in the electronic format. I know many people take great pride in being able to lend their print journal collection, so you can still do that, but for the purposes of getting things to patrons quickly, where electronic is available, we're prioritizing that. Early days on this one. I don't remember exactly when this feature was introduced, but we have seen that the percentage of requests that are filled by electronic lenders has increased from 69% before the update to 81%, so that's pretty significant. Just a few words about Rialto. I know we'll be hearing from Amy this afternoon, or well, it's this afternoon my time, but it's the morning your time. Time zones will get you every time. So I don't want to steal Amy's thunder, but Rialto is still very much part of the platform for Alma. There is a lot of work that is going on with new features in the realm of informed fulfillment. We are expanding the marketplace for acquisition of ebooks. There may be some interesting news coming about print fulfillment and fulfillment referral partners for print materials. So there's quite a bit that's going on in this area. Rialto is alive and well. Don't believe anyone who says otherwise. And we'll hear more about it directly from Amy. The concept of informed fulfillment is a really important part of what's happening in the future. This is the idea that we can make a powerful data-driven decision using agentic AI and using the data that you have available in the library to be able to say, where do I have if I want a particular book, does it make the most sense to go out and buy a copy? Or is it something that I might be able to get from a nearby library by way of resource sharing? Is it actually an open access title that I can get freely on the web? Is it available in some other format? So this would be the concept of informed fulfillment, and you can define how this works. This is what we're looking forward to coming in the next year or so. Briefly, we'll talk about discovery. Let's skip over this linked data stuff because these are features that have already been introduced. Some of the experience of working with the linked data fields will look a little bit different in the next discovery experience. So you may be aware that the next discovery experience is available now for libraries that specifically opted in to be early adopters. Everybody else will have the opportunity to transition over to this in the coming months. We expect a lot of libraries in our part of the world to be going live probably starting next summer, I think, after the current academic year. But this really leans heavily on linked open data. So if I have a record for New York City as a place, I can also see, for example, people associated with New York City. So Langston Hughes, poet from the Harlem Renaissance, Edith Wharton, various people might be associated with this place. It's the idea of connectivity among the data. This will be across record formats and maybe even with a map. It's very exciting. The research assistant in Discovery that I think a number of you are using today, this is the AI-powered research assistant. We have 674 institutions as of, I think, a month or so ago that had activated this tool for internal staff users, and more than 400 that have opened the tool up to their patrons. It allows people to search using natural language and directs them strictly to library resources. It can build a complex Boolean search based on the natural language search that you supply it. We've gotten some really interesting and detailed feedback from libraries about this. If any of you attended the webinar that we had the other day, you would have heard directly from Sue Stevens from Cardiff University about how the research assistant speaks Welsh. It speaks a number of different languages too, but it is good to hear that some of the smaller global languages that are important to our libraries are represented by the research assistant. Patrons really like the natural language search and the ability to kind of build on the question that you have submitted. Coming soon as part of the next discovery experience, which is it's a facelift for the Primo UI. It's not a new product, it's a facelift. There will be a natural language search right within Primo. So you won't have to send people to the separate interface. We're finding that a lot of patrons are coming to expect that this is how they would search. So this is coming to the main part of the UI in short order. We talked about the next discovery experience, and we are seeing the early adopters beginning to go live. The University of Toronto has this live if you wanted to go and check it out. A few words about Specto. You may have heard us talking about this. This is building on the work that we have done with Alma Digital over the last 10 years or so. So the built-in digital asset management tools within Alma, they have done a lot to make it easier to manage digital collections. And we're now trying to take that kind of to the next level. And we're thinking about in terms of opening up collections that may have been hard to make discoverable and hard for patrons to find. So the main things that Specto is doing can kind of be considered under these two broad umbrellas. The back door would be staff workflows, and the front door would be patron-facing capabilities. So on the staff side, you will have the ability to extract metadata and entities from an image or a text document using AI capabilities. And then you can identify what those entities are and use linking through linked open data to provide context around the materials. On the front door side, you can expose your collections either through a conventional discovery interface or through an exhibit that you build with an exhibit builder tool that we have. And you can also think of this as a way to tell a story. I think special collections and digital collections, things that are really unique to your institution, can be such a powerful tool for bringing attention to the library, bringing attention to the institution about what's unique about your mission and your history. So we are hoping that Specto will be able to help you do that. An example of how this might work in terms of the AI metadata extraction, if I have this picture, I can run it through the metadata extraction tool, and it can tell me, we recognize that this is a face, this is a specific person, and I, as the cataloger, can identify this person. It doesn't tell me who it is, but I have the ability to say, this is who this person is. She's affiliated with a specific organization. We can identify the location and tag all of those things so that we can make it discoverable. The linking would be to things like the Library of Congress authority files, names and subjects, also Wikidata, and we can sort of put more information around these digital materials than would be available today. It's been kind of a long-standing problem with digital collections that often, if you have good metadata, it exists at the collection level. And going in and finding individual people or individual places and important entities within a collection where you know they are there can be very difficult. This is a way to make that quite a bit easier. The data stays within your institution. You can use local authorities where it's appropriate. I want to emphasize that in any of the applications of AI, we are not training models. You are not training models by doing this work. The data is not being sent out to any external sources. This is simply leveraging the capabilities of generative AI to recognize things in the images and then giving you the opportunity to tag them. This would allow you to build an exhibit. We have this example here. If you had a special collection about Eisenhower, that you might be able to build an exhibit that a user can navigate through in a way that's not necessarily text-centric about the life of Eisenhower, things that he did, places where he was, other people who he might have been involved with. So this kind of brings things out of the library, the basement, or vault somewhere, and into an exhibit that users can work with. This part of the tool is actually a third-party tool from Wix. If any of you are familiar with Wix from building websites, Wix. This is our implementation of their tool, and we will have a number of different templates that you can use. Getting into the home stretch here, I just want to say a few words about some other things that we want you to be aware of. If you are at all, if you have a foot in the public library world, as so many of us do, you may have heard about our Vega platform for patron engagement. That is available for academic libraries as well. It is not just something for public libraries. It can really allow you to build new types of relationships with your patrons. I'm personally very excited about Vega Donate, which allows you to build a donation platform for the library and accept donations from the general public. Vega Program allows you to support programs in the library. So we hear from some academic libraries that run pretty robust programming with local authors and book groups and events and discussions. This can help you to manage that type of thing. And this is all available today. We are working hard right now on a next-gen teaching and learning platform called OnCourse. This takes some of the capabilities of Leganto and also of Alethea, which is the AI-powered reading coach, and it brings them together. The kind of scoping and thinking about this is going on as we speak. If you're interested in learning more, please drop me a line and I can get you in touch with the product team. The known issues platform is coming soon, so a new way of keeping up with known issues, always an important thing to be aware of. This is one of those, is this happening for everybody or just me situations? So that is coming soon. Also, a new unified knowledge portal. If you use our Knowledge Center today, the platform that it's on is aging, and we're moving it to a new portal that also incorporates new information. Innovative documentation will be there. There will be kind of easier and different ways to search it. And this is coming very soon, I think maybe even at the end of the year. That's what I had. Here's the thank you slide. I'm just going to go back to this to have this up in front before we're... I just have a few minutes for questions. I don't want to cut anybody short, but I have somewhere I need to be. So let me see what we have in the chat. I can probably do 5 minutes here.
Chris Lee had a question in the Q&A.
Yes, I'll read the question. Chris is saying the CSU uses some ISO, but would be interested in more connections. I'd be also interested in working as a test partner for the API. How can we get involved? Chris, I will drop the product team a line and let them know. And I think you can expect to hear from Megan and Mike and that crowd. I'm sure they'd be happy to have you testing these things.
Everyone wants you to be more involved, Chris.
Right. Everyone wants Chris doing all the things, maybe except for Chris. So, yeah.
If anybody else has questions, you can put them in the Q&A or drop them in the chat. Thanks, Chris. Chris always wants to be involved.
Yeah, we appreciate it too. Oh, here's a good question. Is there any work being done to make the cloud apps functional with the new UX? Currently, app functionality is limited. I can look into this one as well. I think some of this is maybe sort of dependent on which app we're speaking about. Some of them sort of work with specific parts of the UX and some of them don't. Some of them are doing like data work in the background and some of them are interacting with something that's on the screen. So I think the answer is probably it depends, but I will ask about that one. I'm happy to answer some offline. I know I sometimes in a situation like this myself will think of a question after the session. So if you think of a question later, I think that the committee can get it to us and we are happy to find an answer. I want to thank everybody for your time this morning, and I hope you have a great rest of the conference and enjoy the in-person component tomorrow.